and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on.
I'm awash with the stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavour show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of the UK's second-largest city, Birmingham.
Ever get that, kind of weird feeling on New Year's Day, like, you're still sort of riding the wave from the night before?
A little bit of the bubbly still lingering.
Exactly. But today, we get to eavesdrop on, well, it sounds like a totally normal conversation from someone's New Year's Day.
What's amazing is how these everyday chats can suddenly reveal something really deep, like they're not being interviewed or anything, just talking naturally.
Yeah, like a little time capsule of sound. We've got bits and pieces of a few different conversations. You'll probably recognize the scene. Someone's a bit hungover, everyone's kind of lounging around, and then bam! Out of nowhere comes this really personal story. So, on this deep dive, we're going to listen closely and try to pick apart what it all means. See what we can learn from these little moments. Just for you.
Think about it. We often let slip the most important things in these casual settings, almost without thinking. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today.
One thing that really jumped out at me was this feeling of absence. Someone mentions that Christmas and New Year's felt strange this year because George wasn't there. It's like things are off kilter when the whole family isn't together.
This immediately brings up how important family traditions are, wouldn't you say? Even if they don't directly talk about it, you can feel how much one person's absence impacts the mood. It's like an unspoken weight.
So true. It doesn't matter if it's a huge family gathering or just a few close friends. Those traditions, those moments we all come together, they really matter. When something disrupts that, it changes everything.
And it's fascinating how this feeling of absence then leads to, well, a completely unexpected personal story. It's like that shared moment of vulnerability opens the door for really intimate confession.
And here's where things get really interesting. In the middle of chatting about kids and family life, someone just casually drops this bomb about being abandoned as a baby. The way they talk about it is so matter-of-fact, but the story itself is unbelievable.
Right. The way he describes it so calmly, it makes you realize that sometimes the biggest things in our lives are woven into our everyday stories in the most surprising ways. Found on the steps of a bakery in Southport, just a couple of days old, no note or anything. You can practically picture it. And it was the baker's daughter, Nellie Bannister, who found him. It makes you think about how much chance plays a role in our lives and how one person can completely change everything.
And you can really tell he has such fond memories of Nellie. He even says he feels lucky it was her doorstep and not someone else's. Just imagine how differently things could have turned out depending on who found him.
That feeling of luck is really stark against what he tells us about his early life. 9 different children's homes by the time he was 5, then to foster care, being moved all over the place depending on where they had space. It really highlights how unstable those early years were. The way he describes it, depending on where there was space and suitable placements, speaks volumes about how things worked back then.
And even with all that moving around, there are these little details that just stick with you. He remembers his foster parents, Sandra and Dennis, their house being loud and chaotic, but also safe and warm, and then this very specific memory of hearing the shipping forecast on the radio. It's such a strong image.
Those small details, they can hold so much emotion, right? The shipping forecast, in this context, becomes a powerful symbol of that time. A familiar sound amidst all the change, it makes the story even more real.
Then he finishes school, leaves foster care, and moves to Ambridge for a farming apprenticeship. It feels like he's taking control, shaping his own future. And then, of course, there's the question of his birth mother. He talks about these childhood fantasies of her suddenly appearing and how those turned into a fear of it actually happening.
It's such a universal struggle, wouldn't you say? Wanting to know where you came from, but also being afraid of what that knowledge might bring. And the fact that she never did show up, it leaves you with so many unanswered questions, even though he seems to have found some peace with it.
What's amazing is that through it all, his connection with Nellie Bannister remained strong. Those occasional visits with cakes and sausage rolls. Such a simple gesture, but it clearly meant the world to him. She was always checking up on me, making sure I was all right. You can hear how much that mattered.
It really shows the power of those positive interactions, even if they're not constant, especially when you're young. Nellie was this link to his past, a reminder that someone cared.
It's incredible, isn't it? After such a difficult start, he seems genuinely content with the life he built and has no interest in digging up the past. And he even expresses empathy for his birth mother. How hard it must have been for her. That takes a lot of strength.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about his character and the relationships he's formed. He doesn't hold on to anger. Instead, he tries to understand. That perspective, that willingness to forgive, it's inspiring.
Now, get ready for a big change of pace. The recording then jumps to a completely different conversation. It's the morning after their New Year's party, and they're dealing with the aftermath. There's talk of hangovers, something called Rel's strawberry lure, and a general feeling of being a bit worse for wear.
It's a funny shift, isn't it? From such a personal, heavy story to the everyday realities of a post-celebration slump. But even here, amidst the groans and complaints, there's this attempt to make the most of the day.
And that leads them to, of all things, reintroducing beavers. Talk about a random topic change. They start discussing all the obstacles, feasibility studies, getting permission from Natural England, and how much it costs to install fencing.
And what's interesting is how their frustration with the red tape starts to build. They obviously believe in the project, but the process seems designed to make it impossible. They even mention needing at least 60,000 pounds just for fencing, potentially rising to 200,000 over 5 years. That's a huge amount of money.
A classic example of a good idea getting bogged down by bureaucracy, right?
Yeah.
You can hear the disappointment in their voices. They're starting to feel like giving up. I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate to that feeling.
And then they have this human moment where one of them isn't feeling well, and they joke about whether it's from the chorizo or too much to drink the night before. It brings everything back down to earth, even though they're talking about this big environmental project.
But it's that frustration, that feeling of being stuck, that sparks this crazy idea. What if they just release the beavers into the wild? It's like they're so fed up with the official channels that they're willing to go rogue.
It's such a bold move. And the fact that they mention beavers being native to the area until the 16th century, it adds a historical layer to the conversation. It's like they're trying to correct a past wrong.
So we have these two conversations that seem totally different on the surface. But when you listen closely, you start to notice these connections. One is a deeply personal journey of loss, resilience, and finding family. The other is about wanting to make a difference, to shape the future of their local environment.
Exactly. Both look back at the past. A missing family member, a difficult childhood, the history of beavers in the area, and both look ahead to the future, how families evolve, how we can impact the environment.
And for you, the listener, what these conversations really highlight are some core human themes. How incredibly strong we can be in the face of adversity. How important it is to feel connected and like you belong, whether that's with family, friends, or even the natural world. And also this struggle between following the rules and feeling like you need to break them to get things done.
It boils down to that human need for connection, for belonging, and for making the world a better place, no matter how we do it. It's about understanding where we came from and where we're going, both as individuals and as part of something bigger.
So, what have we learned from this little slice of New Year's Day conversation? Well, it shows us how easily deep personal stories can emerge in the most ordinary settings. And it reminds us that even when things seem impossible, we can still come up with surprising, even radical solutions.
It emphasizes the importance of really listening, of paying attention to what's being said and even what isn't being said. There's so much depth hidden in everyday conversations that we often miss.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What stories are hidden in your own conversations? What ideas are you sitting on, just waiting for the right moment to come out? Something to think about long after this deep dive is over.
So, what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just
And,
moving mics around again.
So, what do you do?
I do the spot effects on the archers.
Are you what we call Foley then?
Kind of. Yep. That's,
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production.
yeah, that's the ball bar.
This one.
Yeah,
Hayley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came in. So, due in 2 months, not much chance of that now. I mean, it would have been a stretch for him falling actually mine, but I just wish there was something practical I could do to help him go along.
I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years,
basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever